What is trauma bond? It means bonding with someone over a shared trauma, but actually trauma bonding is a defined characteristic. It's a characteristic of many toxic and abusive relationships, and it is often the main reason why we might find ourselves unable to leave them. A trauma bond refers to the deep emotional attachment one might feel towards their abuser, and it's more likely to develop in those who have a history of abuse, exploitation, or emotional codependency in their past relationships. Trauma bonds can easily be mistaken for feelings of love and commitment towards another person. So what's that said? There are some signs to look out for that tell you if it's not actually love that you're experiencing, but a trauma bond. Number 1, the other person is outwardly charming. Of course, if given the choice, no one would willingly choose to pursue a relationship with someone who acts abusive towards them. The problem is, however, the toxic relationship don't start out that way. And it's usually only when you've already experienced the abuse that you start to realize something is wrong. You might develop a trauma bond with someone if they're outwardly charming, sweet, caring, and seem trustworthy to you, but don't be fooled. There might be something more sinister lurking beneath it all. 2, they are emotionally unpredictable. You might be asking yourself, why don't people just leave their relationships once they realize that it's unhealthy for them? But the trouble is, it's a lot harder than to spot trauma bonding when it's up close and personal, compared to it if you saw it happening to someone else. This is because abusive partners can often be emotionally manipulated too. They might abuse and develop you, only to shower you with kindness and apologies, and promises to change the next day. This serves as positive reinforcements to make you second guess any thoughts you might have of leaving them. 3, they tend to take their problems out on you. Think back to the last time this partner, friend, or family member heard some bad news or encountered a problem. How do they usually deal with it? Do they often lash out, take it out on you? Or even when you've done nothing wrong? They could be keeping you around as their psychological punching bag, and you deserve better than that. 4, they isolate you from your loved ones. Some people might think it's sweet to have someone who wants them all to themselves and get jealous of those you spend time with. But there's a difference between loving someone so much and want them around all the time, and actively working to isolate them from the other important relationships in their lives. Does this person get mad at you for spending time with anyone who isn't them? Do they try to control who you're with or ask you to distance yourself from your friends and family? If the answer is yes, then that's as clear as a red flag as any. 5, you deny or minimize their abusive behavior. Let's look at all the ways the trauma bond might affect you and your behavior. Oftentimes, the most telling sign that you are in a destructive relationship is if you find yourself constantly trying to deny or minimize the other person's wrongful doings. We look past all their mistreatments towards us and minimize the abuse by saying things like, oh, it's not that bad, really? Or, I don't mind it. Because in the moment, it's easier for us to just brush it off instead of confronting what might be a terrible, harsh reality, that the person you're with is abusing you. 6, you constantly make excuses for them. The moment you can no longer deny or minimize that the other person has done, and a family member or friend says something like, what they did to you is not okay, don't let them treat you like that. You're still most likely going to try to make excuses for them and come to their defense. At times, you might even find yourself feeling like you deserve this mistreatment. Once you started thinking like this, that is a critical sign that you are in a trauma bond and not a loving relationship. 7, you're becoming more and more emotionally numb. Have you ever noticed yourself feeling less and less lately? Like you are distracted and emotionally numb? You might be feeling this way because you're subconsciously, it's your mind's way of coping with all of the abuse that it's had to deal with. And the person you're trauma bond to, you can't take any more pain, fear, anger, or heartache. So instead, you close yourself off from all of your emotions. You're not as vibrant, talkative, or expressive as you used to be. And they're the reason why. 8, you're hiding aspects of your relationship from others. Finally, but perhaps most importantly, if you start to hide certain aspects of your relationship from those around you, then you know that there's definitely something wrong. Because why else would you actively try to cover up how bad things are getting between you two? Loyalty, towards an abusive significant other is a hallmark of trauma bonding. So you might find yourself becoming defensive or even angered by other people's attempt to intervene in your relationship and help you. Do you relate to any of these things?